everyone. Welcome. My name is Heather Havenwood, and welcome to another edition of Like a Boss, Insights with Influencers, Entrepreneurs, and Badasses like you. So listen up, because this is a good one. I have a guy here who actually a park's been named after him. Like, that's kind of cool. That's a first. So that within itself is kind of cool. So listen to the story. He's also a Texan, so that's really awesome too. So welcome our guest, Darryl Lyons. Are you there?
I'm here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks. No problem. This would be a lot of fun. I'm excited to hear about your personal story, basically about how in the world you have a park named after you, because I don't know, that's just like a first here on Like a Boss Radio. And I'm going to probably say it over and over again. But let's explain to people who you are. Darryl Lyons is a certified financial planner and a behavioral financial advisor, and is considered an expert in personal finance. Author of several books, a regular contributor for Forbes and Texas Monthly, which is a great magazine, if you had it. Under Darryl's leadership, Pax Financial Group has made the Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies, has been voted one of the best 10 places to work. Best places in San Antonio. He's an author, entrepreneur, community leader, and family man, and his latest mission is to help change our concept of retirement and inspire others to pivot. And you have a park named after you, because that's normal.
Yeah, I'm still alive. I'm still alive too. That's
right.
Usually
Yeah, usually it is like that. Usually it's one of those like, he died, so now let's name some cool stuff after, like a park and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I live in Austin, so the trail, as you know, you by the way, even doesn't know, I'm in Austin, he's San Antonio. That's pretty much without traffic, 45 minutes, with traffic, 3 hours.
Exactly.
Right. When you're going down the trail, Town Lake, right? There's all these really cool benches, and they have these amazing, in memory of or whatever. Yeah. And you're always like, I bet that person was like really cool, and they have a park bench. But you're not a park bench. You're an entire park. How big is the park? I have to ask. How big is the park? Is it like an inch?
No, I'm guessing maybe 3/4 of an acre. It's a small park, but it's not. It's got a couple playgrounds on it and a water fountain, and it's kind of cool.
So how did that happen? Did someone just go, "Hey, Darryl, we got this park. We got to name it after somebody"? Like, how did that go down?
Here's the lesson I think that I've had to reflect on. It's a story of not being afraid to get in over your head. I was way in over my head. And so what happened was I met the mayor of San Antonio, just kind of happenstance. And I said, hey, I'd like to be involved in the city. And so he said, well, you know numbers, right? And finance. I said, yeah, I know finance. He goes, well, we have this board where there's a part of the city that's, it's a military base, and those assignments are being deployed to Wright-Patterson and different parts of the country. And we need to replace the missions that are happening at Brook City Base with private sector. So it was a low income part of the city. So I got on the board and I understood the money. And then the chairman passed away, and they didn't know anybody really that knew the functionality of the organization like I did. So I guess I was 20 some odd at the time, 28. And I became chairman of the board, and I was flying on private jets around the country and trying to recruit businesses. At the end of 7 years of doing that, we successfully transitioned the military out and private sector in. And after I was done, the new mayor, Julian Castro at the time, he named a park the Darryl W Lyons Park. And frankly, I was way in over my head, but there's a ton of people around me that knew what they were doing. And it was just a very, very kind gesture. I was really blown away.
That's that sounds like in the boardroom, like, okay, this guy is way over his head. Let's give him a park. Let's just give him a park.
I know. It was amazing.
Pay him or whatever. I'm sure pay was not that great, whatever that was. But let's throw him a park. Let's just give him.
No pay. There was no pay involved at all. I got a sandwich like once a week. It was stress. It was stressful. I was in the newspapers, and there was people. It was a very difficult thing, and it was 7 years of my life. So it was really nice, actually. And it felt like, oh, wow, okay. Like I felt almost redeemed. Like that was pretty amazing. That work paid off, right? And so
yeah, I got a park.
Yeah.
No, that's probably what they thought about. Like, dude, you gotta give this guy something. The guy like worked his butt off.
I know.
You gave him nothing. Like throw him an acre. He only got 3/4. Give him that. Like
yeah, exactly.
Like let him be happy with that 3/4.
I know. I'm waiting for them to pick it or ask to change the name because they found out something about me. I'm just waiting.
Right. For that day, right? We heard that you the number or something. That's really funny. But good for you for going in over your head and just like saying, "Hey, I'm getting in here." You know, you're like, "Whoa, just kidding." It's one of those moments where you're like, "I really want to contribute. How can I help over here?" And they're like, "Oh, you do here." You're like, "Just kidding." I was thinking like 5 hours a week. You know, like 15 hours a week later. So I've been in these organizations. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Those organizations, I was in the city obviously, but I've been in this organization where I took on, and I realized all of a sudden I was like 40 hours a week in my community involvement.
Oh my gosh.
You're like, wait a minute, it was supposed to be just helping the community. Next thing you know, but it's all about giving back, right? And then
it is.
So congratulations, you're the first to be on Like a Boss show.
The part, yeah. Thank you to be alive.
I feel like not because by the way, what part of town is it in?
It's on the south side, so it's on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, the other side. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Cool. So, like, have you ever been to the park? Do you take pictures of the park?
Yeah. I go down there. I look at Google reviews on the park. There's 43 reviews, so I go in there and I look Darryl W Lyons Park, and I look at the Google reviews and make sure it's clean and just for fun, right?
Awesome.
Like, okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've never had that. Like, I do go look at my Google reviews, but I don't have a park, so I don't go look at my park's Google reviews.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? Just, okay, it seems like everyone's having fun. Seems like it's clean. Okay, good. You don't need to do anything.
Well, you're taking pride in your park. I love that. But the Google reviews is great. I love that. Like, oh my God, like someone didn't like my park. I gotta like go handle it. They picked the right guy. They're like, okay, how are we gonna get this thing clean all the time? Okay, here's what we do. The guy who's been giving us 6 years of his life, give him the park, he'll make it pretty.
That's right, exactly. I go down there every now and again, and I've actually said, hey, look, my plaque's a little loose, and there's bird poop that needs to be cleaned up. I've actually done that before. I know I'm really proud of this park. It's like, wow. Yeah.
As you should. If I had a Miss Sexy Boss or Miss Havenwood Park, I would be down there like making sure that thing was like, look at this beautiful plaque. Look at that baby. Like I would totally do that.
That's why they only give parks to people who've died, so they don't have to mess with people living.
Oh my God, that is so true. Yeah. And they don't look at their Google review. Like the guy who says like, right. They can't like go back and go, hey, what's up with the Google review? Can you see this guy was there? He got a 1 star. I got a 1 star.
I got a 1-star park. No, I've got a 4.5-star park.
Oh, I bet that half bothers you.
It bothers me so much. Yeah. Well, that's when they had to mow the yard. So it's like my Amazon reviews. Both of them dictate my temperament each day.
Right. I totally get that. All right, let's get into this. So you're a financial planner, but you're very different. We're talking about something today really cool. 3 ways to pivot into retirement as an entrepreneur. So let's just dive into that. No pun intended on the park. So is there water at the park? I have to ask, is there?
Water fountain. Yeah, not like flowing water or anything. Yeah.
But like a whoosh,
No, not a fountain, just a water, just a push a button and drink water.
Oh, like drinking water.
Yeah, just drinking water, yeah. That's a good idea. Maybe I should lobby for that.
You should lobby for that and raise money to put in a fountain. Okay, great. So 3 ways you can pivot. So what are 3 ways that entrepreneurs can pivot today?
I think one is beginning with the end in mind. I mean, how do you exit your business, especially lifestyle entrepreneurs? I work with several of them that have large clients and they do masterminds and how do you quantify this thing so that way it can be a value that you can sell and transition? And that's a big dilemma for a lot of people.
I mean, I know that business, right? I'm in that business. And the answer is you really can't unless there's only a few people that I've seen do it, right? Franklin Covey, Think and Grow Rich, Robert Kiyosaki, they've been able to transcend the information, the knowledge, but it's not many.
It's not many. I'm working with somebody who's a household name that most of your listeners would know.
Probably.
And we're working on moving it from a cult of personality to a business that can be transitioned. And we've actually talked to third parties that have been interested that aren't even in the business, but want to tap into that group and consider buying it. So we just have to be creative and start thinking about it. And I think we can do this, and we just have to start being creative and identify ways to monetize this business.
It's something, because I've been in the speaking industry and the what I call personal development, personal brand business for a long time, where what I call the business is around a person. And it's I've seen this. I mean, I started the business in 2001, so I've seen people die. I've seen people get hurt. I've seen all kinds of stuff happens, or something happens. It's like politics. Something bad happens. It's the rumor of boom, the whole business is done. Like politics, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much like a political business, that if the person's on a pedestal, things are great. If if all of a sudden it becomes Harvey Weinstein, we got a problem,
Right.
All of a sudden they die, we got a problem. Like the business is literally surrounded by them. So that's really challenging. I've seen it a couple of times. I've seen it a few times that some companies are doing today very, very well. I'm actually with a client right now that I've been working with for almost a year and a half, I say trying because she's resisting me, but trying to move her more into thinking like that. Like, okay, you've got to think beyond you a little bit here. You're 50 years old, she's going to 55, I think, somewhere there, and you've been doing this 25 years. Like you've got to think beyond. So that's interesting.
50 is the right age too, because I mean, you're just starting to think about that stuff. But Dave Ramsey's a great example of this. If you followed him over the years, he's really, really trying to transition this thing into Ramsey Solutions, and Chris Hogan and Christy Wright and Max Lucado. I follow them very well. Yeah, Max Lucado, who's a preacher in our backyard. He's the #1 Christian author in the world, and he's trying to transition from a Max Lucado church to a different church that can transcend him. So you get these cult of personalities.
Joel
Osteen, yeah, and it's hard, and so it takes a lot of time, and so but you got to start thinking about that.
Joel Osteen's a big one. He's in Houston between us, and I have Dave Ramsey, very familiar with that, with Ramsey Solutions. I've met many of them. Yeah. And they have a very interesting, because they're in Tennessee. They have a very interesting internal culture. It's very unique to them, and I think they're doing a great job. They're one of the few, $500 million a year. They're doing very well. I was part of a company similar, the same model, that it blew up in 2008, literally disintegrated, mainly because it was surrounding personalities that couldn't sustain what was going on in 2007, 8, 9. All the personalities, we call it, were up on real estate, right? So there was no way to sustain that time. And the entire company literally disintegrated within a year or two.
Wow.
Yeah. And so if you look at, you look at those kinds of companies, you have to really go, what's our asset here? Right? Joel Osteen, Dave Ramsey, bigger companies, not bigger companies, but bigger personalities. I'm thinking Howard Stern, Rush Limbaugh. I mean, these are big. Yeah. They're entities within themselves, right? Joel Osteen's a big one. He's just huge. If you look at the numbers of him in the church, or just him, hopefully he doesn't, but if he passes away tomorrow, for God's sake, he doesn't, but let's say he does. I love him to death. But think about the impact that would be on the finances.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. And all the people that are impacted, obviously, right?
The people are impacted too, right? The impact of it, if you look at the business model of what it is, how do you sell that? You can't. Now, his information, he's really created amazing publishing. He's going to be able to transcend, I think.
Yeah.
Beyond him being here on this planet Earth. But there's a lot of companies out there today that don't have that transcendence capability. So I'm curious, are you working with companies like that?
Yeah. We're just trying to figure out. Many times it's just trying to change the name, from the name of that people recognize to a name that's not that person, and then that takes time. So sometimes it's just as simple as that, and then starting to create systems and processes are really important. And so if there's a system or process in place, rather than we've just been off the cuff, that's more attractive. And then the other thing is just clean financials. If I'm coming in to buy a business, which I bought a handful, you just want to see a positive trend of earnings. And so making sure you have clean financials in which you're separating your personal expenses from the business. And so that would be a part of that. So it just takes, it's not overnight. So you got to think about the strategy and then start to implement it over about 5 years.
So I don't know this for a fact. It's like hearsay. So let me put an asterisk next to this. Please, asterisk. So Tony Robbins had this conversation supposedly recently, last couple of years, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's phenomenal, but I'm sure he's tired. So sometime in life, maybe he wants to retire. Who knows? But he had to really look at that. He can't scale much beyond where he's at. So he looked at what can I do to really make the big money. So that's when he came out with that book, The Money.
Yeah.
And supposedly what I understand, hearsay, that part of that book was to, it was selling basically a particular mutual fund or fund, and he's tied into that. And so that was his way of exploding his income to a level that's beyond him. You know what I mean? So I think that was really interesting because it's a true asset. I think he owns or percentage or whatever their deal was with the particular mutual fund, with the hedge fund. And I thought, wow, that's actually, I've heard real estate investing, of course, real estate investors doing that, but I haven't heard that from personal development to finance doing that. And so that's why that's why he went to finance. I mean, when he did that book, it was very like, what? This is a finance book. You know, it was kind of like off. He played it really well. I loved it. I loved the book. I read it. It's very good. But at the same time, it was kind of like, what is he doing here? Because then I was waiting for him to do all these like seminars surrounding it, like, have the book, right? But he didn't do that. So I don't know. Did you hear the same rumor? Or am I just totally making this up? This is my rumor I heard.
No, he registered to become a registered investment advisor. So it was his play. It got clunky somewhere along the way. People might have called him out, or maybe there was a credibility issue because, it appeared there was a conflict. I don't know what happened or how it shaked out, but I think, that was his play to try to get that space. Yeah.
Which, if you think about from his perspective as a personal brand, it's brilliant.
Yeah, for sure.
It's brilliant. Now, SEC, I don't understand that world. So
the whole animal.
Right. It's a whole other world. But from his play, it makes sense. Right? It totally makes sense because influencers is what I teach about. Influencers sell all kinds of stuff, from sneakers to food. Why not mutual funds, right? It kind of makes sense a little. And I understand there's an SEC whole other world. But taking that out, the world of a brand, an influencer selling into a product, per se, that they own a percentage of is not cray-cray,
It's not, there's a guy named Scott Burns who did that too. He's an editor for a publication. He moved into the RA space. Motley Fool, that normally produces content, they moved in that space. So I think it's just a natural progression over time. You just kind of say, okay, I really want to be a player in that because it's a sustainable business model.
Yeah, it's more of a sustainable business model and it's something you could show on financial. So let's keep going. One way, two ways, three ways. Take it from here.
Yeah. So I think the other one that I see a lot of that's really damaging, and it's called the graying divorce, is just the amount of people who are getting a divorce as a result of retirement. They transition into next.
What are the numbers? Do you know the numbers?
No. All I know is off the top of my head is it's the fastest growing trend of divorce in that space of those who retire. So in terms of the trend right now, that's accelerating because people are just looking at each other and say, who are you? and there's some conversations that I've seen like, hey, I'd like to live in Houston. And then the spouse says, no, I want to move to California. And as opposed to trying to figure it out, they just say, well, screw it. You go to Houston, I'll go to California before you know it, they're divorced. And that kind of stuff's happening all the time. And that's a real challenge because financially it's, the only people that win are the attorneys. It really tears apart the finances and it's getting ugly. So we're seeing that more and more in the retiree space.
I didn't know that was a trend. I did hear a trend because I'm in Texas. 80% of the divorces, I think this was in Texas, so I could be wrong. 80% of the divorces in Texas were initiated by female.
That could make sense.
I thought that was an interesting stat, but it kind of makes me think.
Probably right. I actually right back of me, I got a pile of notes from a conference I went to in Minneapolis, and the lady who spoke, she was an expert in divorces. She mentioned that number, and it was pretty darn close to that 80%.
Wow! So she did mention something.
She did, yeah. They're initiated by the female spouse. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. And again, but I didn't know the retirement is an increase, which again, unfortunately, makes sense. I had someone who had been married for 30 years that I know in my family, actually, I'm not gonna say who. And I went to see them, and they literally were in front of me were fighting. She's like, I'm going to California. He's like, whatever. She looks at me. She's like, I'm like, literally looked at him and go, no, she's serious. Like, I know when a woman's serious, right? I'm like, oh,
yeah,
she's leaving, you know? And because that's where her family is, and they're in Florida, and she's always hated Florida. So now the babies are grown and kind of thing, and so she's like, I'm gonna go. And he's like, whatever. And I'm like, no, I think no, that's a woman who's serious. Like, she's already
serious about this.
Like, no, I wouldn't roll your eyes on that one. Yeah, because she looked right at me like, mm-hmm. And I'm like, you just let me know what your new number is. You know, like, it was just like, got it. You know, so yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry to hear that. But how can you, if someone's listening, like, how can you? I don't know, like, you can't prevent it. That's a relationship thing. But from a financial perspective, how can you protect yourself?
Yeah, I think
you're already married. The prenup's done. I mean, you can't go back.
No doubt marital counseling works. I mean, it would be wise. Look, you could look at it from a pure financial perspective. Marital counseling's insurance, because a divorce is very, very expensive. It rocks the finances. And getting marital counseling before retirement, it's about a 30% chance reduction in the probabilities that a divorce might occur. And it's just unpacking things. It's aligning values.
Yeah.
It's aligning goals, and then when there's a misalignment, having a third party kind of have dialogue about that. And so I really sincerely think marital counseling makes sense in that retirement space. Those people that have made marriage work in retirement, they're having a lot of fun. They're traveling together, they're companions. So it's worth it to kind of make it work.
It's interesting about that. I know that men, I would say, this is me in my life. I have no data on this. I'm no Harvard expert, but usually have what I call a midlife crisis-ish.
Yeah.
Like 40, 45-ish. Okay.
Yeah.
Women are like, they hit 50 and they're a different person. So they're like, oh, I used to put up with that. No.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Yeah. No. Like, they're just like, I'm in this direction. So where it used to be probably the men, like, we're going in this direction, and she's like, okay, I'm in the boat with you. You know, when a woman turns 50, especially in today's environment, you know, and empowering yourself and saying your own feet, it's around 45, 50 that they're like, just like, no, I'm going left. And they're like, oh, no, like, yep, you know. And I think that's why, if I, you know, again, this is me just making this up and knowing my friends in their 40s and what they're all going through, and I hear everything. It's like that. Like, when they first got married, they were like direction, kids. And then as soon as they kind of like 45, 50, they're just like, whatever you said you want, that's cool, go. Like, I'm over here. And they're like just completely okay with that. So, and a lot of the women don't think about the financial because, you know, they have their own stuff going on emotionally. They just want to feel free, and they want to go after what they really want in life, and they don't want to follow him anymore, whatever that is for them. But it is extremely, what is it called? Financial burden. And I'm holding up a magazine, can't see because my video is fuzzy. But in this magazine, entrepreneurmagazine.com, you've probably heard of it. Yeah. I just did an article. I just talked about an article today. I'm not going to share with you when I ask for feedback. And the article is about breaking up. Now I'll find it. Breaking up with, how to break up with your co-founder. It's an interesting article. And from a financial perspective, you know, how to break up with your business partner as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Now, in his perspective, his little amazing thing, his name is Wiley Robinson. He owns Rumble, and he goes through his little story, and it looks like they're still friends, and like it's all good. And the guy was like, "Peace out, I'm going traveling." He's like, "Great," but that doesn't always end up that way. No. So it's like a happy story, you know? Yeah. Like, oh, he's like, "I don't want you to be my partner." He's like, "Oh, okay. Here's the severance. Oh, okay. You can keep your cell phone. Oh, okay. All right, cool. I'm going to go. Peace out. I'm going to go travel the world." And so now he's all happy. Like, this is called fairy tale. Okay. But good for him. Good for him. I think it's great. What do you say about that in the world of finances and protecting yourself and retirement when you have a business partner that maybe you having to fire or break up?
Yeah. That's tough. I've got several business partners and a co-founder. We bought out one of our co-founders He went to go work with Dave Ramsey, and it was kind of a peace out thing. It worked out real well. We cut him a check, and he was off to go work with Dave Ramsey. He became the Mexican Dave Ramsey. Now translates all Dave Ramsey stuff into Spanish. It's good for him. And so the other ones that are here, we cuss and fuss and we fight. We disagree. But at the end of the day, we got married. And so we just deal with it. And we recognize that people are people. And we do believe that 1 + 1 = 3. And so we just have to work through that stuff. Now, there is an hierarchy of leadership, which is important. And, you know, co-founders are tricky because as the company becomes more complex, and you've got 2 leaders that are joint leaders, that's tricky. So in our organization, it helped when somebody became CEO. And look, okay, the buck stops with Darryl, and that's me. My co-founder, Joseph, he humbly, which was very kind, took on the president role, which is in an org chart subservient to the CEO. Now, he still has the same equity, but it allows for a clean organizational picture. And so that's helpful in a partnership or a co-founder's relationship. Right.
And there's got to be clarity about that. I just saw the movie The Post with Meryl Streep. Did you ever watch that? It was a great.
I haven't seen it. Is it good?
It was really good. It was a lot good from a lot of different perspectives. But one of the things that was really interesting about her is, you know, her father started the Post, and then her husband ran the Post, and then her father died. Obviously, and her husband died, and she was given this. And in her view, she was not designed. And through the entire movie, she never really made big decisions. She constantly was leaning on her board and kind of did like, oh, what do you think? Okay, we'll do that, you know, kind of thing. Yeah. So it wasn't until the very end when the whole ending kind of happened, and she's like, no, I'm making decisions. And there was all these people around her in her ear, and she kind of made this big decision. That was kind of the whole presence of the whole book, you know, the whole movie, about how she stepped forward and said, this is the direction. And that was the first time in the movie that you saw the buck stops with her, even though everyone around her was against her in that particular decision, except like one person. The buck stops there. And it's when there's a clean break. It's like everyone has to either follow suit or leave, you know, pretty much, you know. So
it makes sense. That's why we don't see countries with 2 presidents.
Right.
You know, we just don't see that. It makes sense. But that's the thing about co-founders, is getting that org chart right. And that's a good example.
That's a good example. Okay, so what else? Ways to pivot into retirement as an entrepreneur.
I'll say that
a lot of entrepreneurs don't have savings.
Yeah, savings. And in that same vein, I would actually say, if you're an entrepreneur, I think the female voice needs to be louder than we give it credit for. And I'm not patronizing, but what research has shown is women are better at the savings and investing than men. Betterment did some interesting research and identified that when the market goes down, men are much quicker to mess with their money than women, and as a result get worse returns. So in terms of the disciplined savings and being disciplined with your investing, I think bending the ear of the female, or at least following her leadership, there's evidence to support that makes a lot of sense. So the collaboration with money needs to give a little bit more credit to the female ear. So many times when people are coming to me, it's the entrepreneur, maybe the head of the household's the man and he's working and doing stuff. It's the wife that comes and pulls him by the ear in front of me and says, we need to do this. And it's finally when I got his ear and her ear that we're able to make progress in their financial lives.
That's awesome. So listen to us. No,
well, it's just research. You know, I'm not being biased here. It's just the reality is that females are better at the investing and savings, and men, I don't know what it is about us. We have this ego. We can do it on our own, whatever it is. Something about us is not allowing us to make the decisions that are rational. And again, the key is for us to make logical, rational decisions. And men just want to do it on ourselves, and we think we're better than other people. I don't know what it is there.
Who knows? We're not, I mean, you know, I could be a therapist on that one, but.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that you worked with Ramsey International. They're a great organization. Do you work with them, or you're on the board?
So he has about 12 financial advisors around the country that he flies up to Nashville, and we discuss things that he's talking about on the air. So, you know, if he talks about, hey, you can get 12% on your investments, then he sits down with a group of financial advisors and we say, hey, Dave, you know, you might want to temper that or at least explain that a little bit better. And and then he'll provide us feedback. And the Ramsey Solutions team is unbelievable. They'll bring guys in like Don Miller to chat with us a little bit about us being better at our jobs. And so it's very collaborative. So there's these 12 advisors. I'm one of them. That is called an investment council. And it's somewhat of an honor. I always tell my wife when I get back, I'm a guy that gives the financial guy advice. And that is just a kind of a cool role. So I relish that role and take pride in it. And they do a good job.
You're also a guy that has a park.
Yes.
So
Great.
I don't know which one's bigger, you know?
I don't know.
So I have to ask then, are there any women on the advisory board?
There are, yeah. And they're great. And, I'm on another board. I'm on a couple boards, but another one's called C12. It's a national Christian board. It's really amazing. And they have 12 board members in each area. There's one there's probably 4 or 5 in Austin. There's 5 or 6 in San Antonio. And whenever I get on that board, I have to have a female voice, because it's just a different tone. And so I think anybody who's wise, and we've seen this lately, a trend even to be compliant as an organization, as a publicly traded organization, you have to have a female voice. So we're seeing a trend there, and it's a positive one in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think that having the different female, male, we just bring something different, new to the table. I'm not better or worse, just new. Just a new view, just new perspective, new, we just see things differently. So it's adding different value. I love that. So tell us about how they can get a hold of you, or your 5,000 books you have. Or
yeah. Well,
park. They want to see a picture of the park. They want to write a Google review of the park.
Yeah, that's right. Be positive, be kind. Just be kind on the Google review. Actually, so the latest book I launched was 18280, and that was designed just to help people make better decisions with their money. It's a real simple book. It's easy. Dave did a great endorsement on it. You can certainly get that on Amazon. LinkedIn's a great place to find me. I love using LinkedIn, and my company's PAX Financial Group, PAXFinancialGroup.com. So
I'm
those are a
checking
couple
you
of
out
those.
right now on LinkedIn at Darryl Y Lyons. That's right. So Darryl W Lyons. You need to have in your header, underneath your name. Instead of saying I'm working hard to help the middle class make better money decisions, you need to have comma, and I have a park named after me.
I have a park named after me, and I'm on Dave's council.
You should. That's cool. I mean, oh my gosh. By the way, I just saw that you went to St. Mary's. I literally live 78704, which is down the street.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, no, you're St. Edward's.
Oh, you're thinking.
I'm St. Mary's. Yeah, so I'm St. Mary's. St. Mary's is on the west side of San Antonio, and I know where you're at in St. Edward's. Yeah, I've been there. I've jogged around there before. Yeah, it's pretty. It's cool.
I know, I feel stupid. But yeah, no, St. Edward's. It's right here. You should just gone with that. I'm kidding. Yeah. It is right. St. Edward's and St. Mary's is actually in San Antonio, which is 45 minutes away, and I live literally down the street from St. Edward's, which is a beautiful campus.
It is cool.
Even though UT's down that way, which is not a beautiful campus. I think UT is one of the most ugly campuses ever. I mean, UT is amazing, and Austin's amazing, and the Capitol's amazing, but the campus is not really necessarily a campus; it's just a bunch of buildings together.
Well, what do you think? What do you think about going right up the road to Waco when you see that campus? What do you think?
I went to Baylor.
Oh, I didn't know this.
So for one semester.
Okay.
I failed out. I talk about I failed out of Baylor my first semester.
So I missed that on one of your podcasts that I listened to. Did you talk about that?
Find it. Yeah, I failed out. That's a whole. I'll be on your podcast to share that story. But yes, I failed out of Baylor. I actually ended up going to TCU, which is a beautiful campus.
Oh yeah.
TCU is gorgeous, stunning, beautiful, perfect all the time. Yeah. And so I went to Baylor for one semester, and I failed out of Bible class.
Wow, okay. That's hilarious.
And I went to a private school in elementary and junior high. So it's one of those really? How did you fail Bible?
You failed because you didn't show up. That's how you fail.
Because I was drinking.
Yeah, because you didn't show up. That's exactly how you fail. Because you don't fail Bible. Yeah.
I forgot about my Bible verses while I was having a cocktail or 2 or 3 for semester. So that's all about me. I can your show talk about that. So I was 18,
Well, one day I'll have a podcast and I'll have you on.
Okay, good. All right, let's talk about you. So where can they find you? Where can they hang out with you? Where can they get to know you?
LinkedIn's great. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I pretty much connect with anyone that says, if you say you're an SEO expert, I don't connect with you, only because there's thousands of people that say SEO, and I got tired of always accepting. So that's the only person I won't connect with. Other than that, I'm good. I'll connect with you. Just maybe change that up if that's who you are.
SEO people need financial planning too.
Yeah, it's just not going to work for me.
Not going to work. Okay, all right. Sorry, guys.
But other than that, yes. And then PAX Financial Group, you can always visit the website, and there's little tools and gadgets and stuff to play with on there. And then certainly the 18 to 80 book is the book that you can understand. I think it'll help you a ton and your listeners a ton, because I made it for just the middle class layman, just easy to read. Every chapter is interesting because you can go, okay, I'm 42. What do I need to do at 42? My mom is 70. What does she need to do at 70? My son is 20. What do I need to do for him at 20? Right. So every chapter is an age. So you just open the book and you don't have to read the whole thing.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. It's all rooted in that behavioral finance stuff, that kind of nerdy stuff, but it's done in a very layman way.
Oh, I love it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Oh, great. Well, go check that out. Tell me the name of the book again.
18 to 80. So TO 18, everything from age 18 to age 80, what you need to know about finances. It's real cheap on Amazon. My publisher's only doing like $7.99, so it's pretty cheap. So grab one or two or three. And all proceeds support 4 kids that live in my house.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Okay, great. All proceeds. That's funny. All right, great. This is so check it out. Check it out. Go to LinkedIn. Find him, Darryl Lyons, and go check him out on Amazon. It's a really cool book. 18 to 80. That makes sense. Age 18 to 80.
Yeah.
Go check it out. Darryl, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having fun today, talking about your park and your Google reviews, and it's super fun.
That's fun.
Because it's it's hard to do that sometimes. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, this is Heather Havenwood. Check it out at heatherhavenwood.com. I'm on iHeart, Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes, soon to be Pandora. This is helping you rise to the top.